Welcome, Adventure. I'm GM Goblin, and today we're going to be in Pathfinder 1E and talking about Mummy's Mask. If you haven't seen my previous videos about finishing up some of the chapters, go ahead and take a look at them, and we're going to do a quick recap. Mummy's Mask is a very Egyptian-based AP. It takes you from 1 to 17. It is got a lot of treasure hunting into it, and you are starting off in the Osirian Desert, and you're in a small, can you see it on the map, place called Wati. There's a long history about it. I mentioned a little bit in some of my other campaigns. It's kind of cool, but you have a party. You get to give your party a name, and you have a lottery system where they're opening up these long sealed tombs in the necropolis of this town. And so you get your designated tombs. There's other adventurers that take part in this. And of course, you get some of the better adventures, better loot and everything through it. And so the whole first book is you starting off exploring these dungeons. Remember to bring rope and to be real careful. You can die at low levels real easy. But you meet other groups. You end up getting a very powerful magical item, and it kind of stays with you and becomes very much part of the campaign as you go through, and it's the Mask of the Forgotten Pharaoh. As you go through it, you're going to pull out of your tombs and finish that. You'll get part of this auction where you get this necromantic power that goes over the entire city, and you're going to end up having to track it down. You confront a necromancer, and you find about this cult that you start dealing with. And you also find about a character called the Forgotten Pharaoh. It's part of Assyrian's ancient past. And that leads you into the later books where you find out about the Pharaoh, and they call him the Sky Pharaoh, and that this cult of the Forgotten Pharaoh is trying to resurrect what they consider their god king. And then you travel to parts of the city. You travel to, let's see here, city of Tefu. You travel out into the middle of the desert. A little bit of spells, and you don't have to worry about all that resource management. But you wander around in like this grid kind of playthrough. I know a lot of people don't like grids. We didn't mind it this time, but it does have a tendency that when you wander around in the desert, if you have bad rolls, it can turn into quite a while. We've spent, I think technically this is going to be one of the longer APs that you run through, especially since we don't have a lot of downtime in them. And it's mostly because of the grid, because wandering through the desert. But Little Magic takes care of it. And, you know, you get to meet up with some sphinxes, and you make a few friends along the way. You endear yourself to a small community which worships Set. And I mean, it's pretty interesting going through all of it. It keeps to the theme. There is a lot of, especially for the first half of this, there's outsiders, lots of undead, and lots of mechanical. Now, they do have constructs like golems, and they do have almost like robots in there too. So they're a little bit different in how they play out. My character uses lightning for most everything. So running into your golem-based characters has been a little bit harder on me, and there's a lot of things with resistance or outright immunity to lightning than I normally ever deal with in a campaign. But going through it, you start looking for the history of these tombs. You find out about flying fortresses, flying pyramids. You start looking for a character who's been dead. So you're looking for his tomb, a character named Chisisek, and you're kind of wandering around, going through the desert. You find his tomb, his body's been abducted, and then you return him to his tomb, but not before. You get to relive a nice scene from the D&D movie and ask him some questions with Talk with the Dead. Luckily, he's very, very willing to give you information. And so there's a lot of lore dumps you can do in this. If you want some skills, like I've said before, your knowledge for either arcane, your knowledge for the ability to know some history, religion is huge. And right now in our campaign, we lost my familiar, which had the sage advice, so I can't use a trick she was using. So we're having trouble with anyone who has spellcraft, because I depended on my familiar for the whole time. So if you can back that down along with having a good perception and the ability to take care of locks and traps, and you'll probably be okay. But you deal with him, you find out about this pharaoh, they're trying to resurrect him, and then they are out collecting pieces of his soul. And you have one of them in the mask. And then they collect two. So by the end of the fourth book, we have ran through the desert. We have found out about the construction of these flying pyramids and heard about this place called the slave trenches of Hakotep, where they were all created. And so we are thinking, oh, well, we're going to go and sell everything. Well, the start of book 5, the slave trenches of Hakotep, actually starts with you having to run back to Wati because of it being under attack by one of these pyramids. And so instead of giving ourselves up, we decide to destroy everybody. And it gives you an idea of what to expect, I'm assuming, later on in the pyramids. But it's kind of interesting. They play around with a little bit of magic, some wandering halls inside, nothing too great. And then we went to the actual trenches where these pyramids, which were part of the Sky Pharaoh's army, were created. And our entire purpose is to get this basically gigantic machine to operate so that we can, we're assuming, bring them down to Earth and call them to us so that we can fight the Sky Pharaoh on our terms. And that's kind of where we're going through with all this. We're currently level 14. I have to say, I don't know how much the GM is adjusting the damage and everything, but I feel like the damage in some cases, especially when it's just like melee hits, could be a little more. It's not too bad usually, but they definitely are easier to kill, especially for our, I mean, I deal decent damage. I am running a 3P build. I'm the only one running any 3P, and it's because I'm running a kineticist and I am running a onslaught elemental scion. Both of those are 3P builds, and I have it on top of a legendary kineticist. I have actually changed how the class works a little bit. We use the same burn mechanic as normal, and I have changed a little bit. I'll do a video on what I changed to kind of level it out so that I don't have to worry about being too OP. There's one thing that technically, or a couple things that still gives me a really good advantage, but I don't think it's too bad in comparison to some of your more powerful and arcane classes. But I think we just deal so much damage that we run around a lot of stuff. And there is some pretty interesting things. You've got some nice fort saves. You're dealing with jars. Just for reference, if you go through this, eat the bugs at least once, actually only once. But some of the saves are pretty good, dealing with magical traps, especially without the ability to figure out some of them, thanks to not having my familiar. Then we've fallen into a few of them. Luckily, most of our saves are pretty good. I mean, right now, my guy's Constitution saving throw is like plus 22. Kineticist, I've got like almost a 30 con as it is. So that's not too bad. Fear does pop back up. Fear is really big in the lower levels, teeters off kind of your middle levels. And once you get to where we are now, we've had a few things that have had fear effects onto it already. So I'm glad I kind of padded my will stat against that. I can probably go through some tricks in another video for helping yourself with that as well. But we're going through these slave trenches, and our cleric got turned into a statue in one location. I'm too busy messing with something. She is obviously out because she's a statue. My other two characters see an encroaching golem, and in the surprise round, and they have teamwork feats and they trip and everything else. But in the surprise round, this thing comes up. They're the only ones that get to act. And in the surprise round, because of their feats, they're not only able to trip this thing because he uses a polearm and she is a Slayer rogue, but trip him, trigger attack of opportunities between them. He gets a free attack, she gets a free attack, and when they crit, they kill this thing before it even gets to actual combat for initiative. And so it was hilarious, but so far, except for a few saves, nothing's really been that hard. In fact, there's been several fights where just two of us went, and that was all that it was needed to kill the opponent, because there was a Sphinx that was harboring some loot, bad guy anyway. And so we half rounded him because, well, I did hit a crit, but I hit the guy with the crit, and then she just tapped him once, and that was it. And so we've had a few fights like that now, actually. Even the ones that were full rounds, due to pounce and everything, we've been having no issue taking them out. We've one-rounded a lot of fights. But some of the history and everything we've seen, and a couple of the little tricks with things, either that you find, hidden walls, illusions, that kind of stuff, then it's pretty interesting. We can see all magic. I have a lantern. So when we walk around, I constantly see everything that's magical anyway, or any kind of magical aura. Probably kills part of it. I mean, our rogue, if she passes anywhere near a trap, she automatically gets a free check to spot it, even if she's supposedly not looking. It's just the abilities we've all taken. We're fairly well optimized. Everyone deals a lot of damage. My normals, like in the 80s for my one blast every single round with my kineticist, but they can easily hit 100, 150. And then, of course, if I crit, I can do over 200 or multiple targets because of chain lightning. So my one problem, and it's probably not really the AP thing, it's really our characters thing, is I kind of wish some of the opponents were tougher. But otherwise, the campaign, going through the story, having to figure out this slave trenches, this machine, to get it to working, to using your skills, finding out the knowledge, finding out the history of it, it's been really fun. A few interesting characters, nothing really that's... I mean, there was a few ghosts in this book, in the trenches anyway, so far, and they were a little bit different. We had swarms, again, for the first time in forever. I was mostly the one that took care of that, and our fighter threw lightning. But for the most part, the books have been really good. A lot of lore dumping, a lot of really cool things about it. Not as much for RP, except for with a few characters where we've got to talk to them and kind of make friends with them. Like I said in the last book, you got to talk to Chisisek, which, you know, he's under a spell and undead, but we got to talk to the Sightless Sphinx. This one, you make, I can't remember his name. I have to look it up. But you kind of make a small friendship with one of the characters that has been trapped down there. And so we've promised to set him free, even though my cleric was the one who has no diplomacy. And she talked to him first, so she kind of ruined part of it, but I was able to salvage some of it. And I mean, it's just been pretty good. We killed a gigantic rock that had been awakened, and we discovered these kind of clocks, which I want to go investigate. I don't know if they pertain specifically to the campaign we're in right now, or if it's just something that's there, but we'll definitely go play with them afterwards. But so far, the campaign, it's a lot of dungeons, especially at this point in the game. There's not as much lore that we're unlocking. You get some big dumps, and then there's some cool looking rooms and all, but it's a lot of dungeons. It's a lot of going out. You're in a old dungeon that's been forgot for 1,000+ years, and you're just uncovering undead elementals that have been trapped and enslaved, that kind of stuff. So it is leveling really fast after we hit like 11, 12, since we're already 14. So I don't imagine there's much left for the book. I imagine that whenever we're done with the trenches, which probably won't take but another session or two, that we'll be looking at our final vault into the big bad. And so I don't know if we've missed something or not, but that's just kind of how I expected it to go. And so maybe we skip something, and so we're supposed to have a level and we don't. Or maybe she has kept us back to try and make the last fight harder. We'll find out. Because at least from the way everything's playing out, unless there's a twist somewhere, I don't imagine that there's going to be something else for us to do. But either way, it's been a pretty enjoyable campaign. Love the characters all of us are playing. And I'll probably do a recap and a build for each one of us later on. And then I've got my review for my kineticist itself. But so far, the Mummy's Mask has been really cool with some interesting characters. If you like anything with Egyptian, then you're going to love this. It's just been a fun campaign. My wife is a huge Egypt fan. But so far, Slave Trenches, I mean, it's been just a slog through dungeons. And then we'll see, because the final book, I think, is mostly just appendix and kind of like what you saw with Rise of the Rune Lord, where it's that last kind of press to the door and then the big bad. So we'll find out, and I'm sure I'll do another video on that. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much. It's been a while since I've done one of these. And either way, I'll see you around.